I'm about to try to make my own game. I've never made a game before, and honestly, I blame Pirate Software for all of his motivational YouTube shorts convincing me that I could actually try to make a game. I will say that I do have a degree in computer science, and I wrote a lot of code when I was in school, but once I got out of school, I didn't go into being a developer, so I don't write a lot of code in my day-to-day life. I actually work in cybersecurity, and outside of some small scripts in like Python or Bash or something, I almost never write code. I end up reading source code fairly often in my day-to-day, but as far as writing code, especially in a large project like a game would be, I probably haven't done that in 10 years. But I've watched enough Pirate Software shorts that I've decided to actually take a shot at making a game. And instead of jumping in headfirst and biting off more than I can chew and then ended up getting inevitably burned out in a few weeks from now, I'm actually going to go about this in a little bit more of an incremental way. I was actually told about this website that has the 20 games challenge, and it basically just gives you a challenge where you make a very simple game, basically just trying to like recreate a game that you already know, like for example Pong or Flappy Bird. And the idea is with every game you get a little bit better, you learn more about making games, you get a new idea or something about game design that you figure out along the way, and then by the time you've made your 10th game, then you're able to just kind of like go on your own and make 10 more games all by yourself. I don't know if I'll actually end up going through with making all 20 of these games. I might get bored and just want to make my own game at some point, but I thought it was a good place to get started since I basically have zero game design experience at all. So in this video, I'm going to make my very first game, and I figured where better to start than with what is kind of the grandfather of video games, Pong. So naturally the first question is, what game engine should I use? I decided to use Godot for a few reasons. The first was that I just seen a lot of indie devs and other beginners trying to get into game development using it, and it seemed to have the right balance of being fairly user-friendly while also having all the features to make either a 2D or a 3D game. Also, even if there are objectively better game engines out there, and I'm actually not even knowledgeable enough to even determine if there are, the fact that Godot is completely free and open source is very appealing to me. I can forgive a lot of shortcomings for anything that is open source with good community support, and that's why I decided to go with Godot. Before I even started looking at this 20 game challenge, I was watching a lot of game dev tutorials and devlogs and stuff, and one of them happened to be a video walking through the process of making Pong in Godot. This video by a channel called Coding with Russ was super helpful since that was exactly what I was trying to do. But I tried not to just follow his instructions step by step. I tried to figure as much of it out for myself as possible by reading the documentation because I think that is a much better way to learn than just following a tutorial step by step. But I did end up referring back to that video several times whenever I got stuck or if I wanted to just make sure that I was doing something right. But there was one point when I was trying to script the AI for the right paddle where I ran into a big issue. For some reason I couldn't get the paddle to actually follow the movement of the ball. It would just stay still and just refuse to move no matter what I tried. I tried everything I could think of, and at one point I even went to Russ's GitHub page and just copy and pasted his code for that script. But that still didn't fix it. I probably struggled with this for a couple hours before I finally scrolled down on that video and read some of the comments, and one person mentioned a fix involving changing the variables from ints to floats. And somehow that fixed it. I have no idea why, but my best guess is there was some sort of change in the version of Godot that Russ used when he made that video and the version that I was using. And whatever that change was meant that that script no longer worked with ints. After getting past that hurdle, I eventually had a working Pong game, but I wasn't quite satisfied. The video from Coding with Russ covered making the game, but it didn't add any extra flavor like sounds or a main menu or anything like that. So I decided to add my own. I downloaded Bracky's platformer bundle, which he used in his video where he made a basic platformer with Godot. And that's a great video, by the way. I highly recommend it for anyone trying to learn Godot. But I decided to use some of the sound effects from that asset pack. Those sounds weren't originally intended for a game like Pong, but he had some pretty cool retro arcade style sound effects that I thought were good enough for my purposes. Next, I wanted to make a main menu. Making the main menu was interesting because this was the first time that I had to figure out how to change scenes. I also ended up using the same font that Coding with Russ used in his videos for all the text and buttons in my menu. After my main menu was done, the only other thing I wanted to add was a pause menu. This was a bit challenging because I had to figure out how to pause the action of the game and then resume it. And I also had to figure out how to reset everything when clicking the restart button. I made a few attempts that went horribly wrong, but after reading several guides and Reddit threads, I eventually figured it out. I'm actually really glad I decided to make the main menu and pause menu, because I feel like these are things I would need to know how to do for any game I decide to make in the future. Finally, after all of that, I have a working game of Pong with sound effects, a main menu, and a pause menu. I actually uploaded it to itch.io, so if you want to play it, I'll have it linked down below. I even exported it as a web browser game, so you don't even have to download anything to play it. I really enjoyed making this game though, and I feel like I learned a lot along the way. I think I will probably make another game soon, and I'll probably make it a little bit more of a complex game, so hopefully I'll pick up a few more skills and learn some new things about game design during that one. And I'll probably make another video like this documenting my journey. So if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.